Hello and welcome. So before I start this video, I just wanted to preface that please bear in mind everyone is different. Everyone's physiology is different and we all have different tolerances to risks and the way that we work. So the information that I share with you, I just want you to take it on, see if it works for you, and if it doesn't, then just leave it. I believe you are your own best coach. So if you're experiencing a diving plateau or perhaps suffered a squeeze or had difficult experiences in the water, this video will be particularly relevant for you. So if this has been the case and you're trying to ask yourself to relax when you've had one of these experiences, it's almost physiologically impossible. And that's because if you can imagine you were in a room with a lion, you're going to have the same physiological response, that sympathetic response. Would you have the expectation for yourself in order to just relax? So we need to remember that the nervous system works a little bit like an animal body. It doesn't operate through logic. It has what we call a bottom-up approach through your sensations, your vision, your hearing. So just take a moment and imagine actually you're in a jungle in our tribal times and you hear a rustling in the bushes. Pause, take a moment. What happens in your body just by thinking about it? Do your shoulders tense? Perhaps your vision narrows, you become hyper-focused, your hearing sharpens, and perhaps the sounds actually are activating your sympathetic. You brace yourself and you reduce the movements in order to be able to pick up what's going on in the environment. All of these are natural, healthy, and a normal response to a potentially dangerous situation. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it's designed to do, to protect you and keep you alive. So what's important to understand is this response happens before you're consciously aware of it. So Dr. Stephen Porges calls this neuroception, the continuous and unconscious scanning your nervous system does in your environment to determine whether you are safe, whether it's dangerous or a potentially life-threatening situation. So you don't decide to tense and turn at depth. You don't choose to turn early. Your nervous system has already run its assessment and issued a response before your conscious mind has caught up. This is why willpower has limited influence and why telling yourself to relax rarely works in these circumstances. So instead of trying to achieve relaxation, shifting the focus to regulation or building inner agency and confidence can increase our level of safety. We can start to step out of our comfort zone while still staying rooted within ourselves. Think of your nervous system a little bit like a traffic light system. Green is your safe zone, a place of comfort, where your heart rate is slow, your muscles are relaxed, and you feel settled and connected and capable. As you move into the red zone, your sympathetic response, it's your classic fight or flight. Your muscles tighten, your heart rate increases, adrenaline and norepinephrine is released. Your body is preparing to fight, to survive, to protect you. You cannot fight this physiology. You have to work with it. So the third state is your blue zone. This is your dorsal vagal response. This is when your nervous system has experienced stress for too long, or if a single event has been overwhelming enough that it shifts into a collapse response as a protection mechanism. So in freediving, this could look like a blackout or a samba. There's also a fourth zone, and one that I really want to highlight, which is your yellow zone. This is your window of tolerance, the space between your green and your red. Here you can step outside of your comfort zone and stretch yourself without stressing or overwhelming yourself. You're still rooted in safety and self-agency, and yet you're beginning to explore your edges. This doesn't always mean about being comfortable. It means staying present to the discomfort rather than fighting it, and that's how your body learns about safety. So we know tension costs us. When the nervous system is in a sympathetic activation, several things happen simultaneously. Skeletal muscle tone increases, the diaphragm tightens, and accessory breathing muscles start to engage. Each of these increases metabolic demand and O2 consumption, and this can be even before we started our dive. So the vagus nerve, your primary pathway of your parasympathetic nervous system, runs through your neck, your thorax, your abdomen. And when your vagal tone is high, naturally your heart rate slows down, your diaphragm moves freely, the body shifts into a lower metabolic state. This is obviously the physiological condition that we want when we're freediving. So when vagal tone is low and sympathetic drive is dominant, the opposite is true. Our heart rate stays elevated, muscle tone holds unnecessarily, bringing in the tension, and obviously we're going to be burning through oxygen much faster. So a restricted diaphragm also obviously directly impacts our EQ. The diaphragm connects via our lines to the throat and the thoracic structures, and chronic tension in the diaphragm limits the pressure mechanisms that we need for EQ, that contribute to the throat tightness, that make EQ progressively harder at depth, and we can start risking squeezes and things. So regulation, we can see, is not a soft benefit. It directly determines how much oxygen you have, how efficiently your body uses it, and whether your dive reflex fires the way it's designed to. So what about if we're at a depth plateau? And as frustrating as it is when we want to go deeper, but we're not actually making progress and we keep hitting that wall, this is actually your nervous system doing what it's designed to do. It's detecting potential threat and responding before you consciously register it. It's trying to keep you safe. The good news is this is often not a lack of talent or capability. It's that you don't yet have the understanding or the tools to work with your inner system. So we know that pushing makes things worse, as when you're pushing into the protection response, which tends to reinforce it. But being stuck at a certain depth is frustrating, and when your body locks up, it only increases that stress, not to mention the stories we tell ourselves about what that means about us. And I will be definitely covering that in later modules. So all of this creates further stress on the system, which obviously the nervous system encodes as additional evidence of threat, and the pattern deepens. So when we're working with our nervous system, what we really want to be doing is giving it better information over time. And this happens through gradual exposure, recovery practices that build vagal tone, and learning to complete the stress cycle rather than just interrupting it. The goal is not to silence the protective response. It's to update the threat assessment to respond to so it's in proportion to the actual risk. So what does that mean practically? Let's go back to the jungle, the rustling in the bushes. So we could also consider that it may just be a mouse. And when you realize that, your response changes. You feel safe. So we can learn here that our initial reaction is not always correct with our nervous system, but we do need to respect it and acknowledge it. So I put together 3 steps that can help you when you're working with your nervous system. The first one is to acknowledge, notice. Don't fight your physiology. You actually kind of want to thank it. Notice that you're moving into a sympathetic response, that there is tension there. Second, assess. Is this response appropriate to what's actually happening? Is it the lion or is it the mouse? And then your third step is to act. Decide, do I soften? Do I turn? If you're deciding you want to turn, try to do it from a decision rather than reacting to fear. Even by doing that, by giving yourself a microsecond of a pause, showing the system that it's safe, and then ascending, you will be showing the nervous system, yes, see, I am safe. I have agency. I'm not just responding to the fear. So the yellow zone and repetitive turns. Imagine you're in the jungle, and actually when you're walking through the jungle, you do encounter a lion. You manage to get away safely, but later that day or even that week, you need to travel back the same route. How do you think you will react? You're going to be on edge, you're going to be looking around, your nervous system is going to hold on to those negative experiences or either anything vaguely familiar in order to keep yourself safe. So imagine hearing that rustle in the bushes now, that's going to be amplified 10%, 100% more. So this is obviously what happens in the water if we've had a negative experience. Our nervous system is on hyper alert for something like that to happen again. So this could be triggered by specific sensations, visibility changing, more darkness as we're going deeper, pressure on our bodies, and just noticing the density that we're in the water perhaps. So your nervous system remembers and feels that and initiates a turn before you even get the chance to decide. Your nervous system is responding to information, accurate or not, from the past squeeze, a difficult dive, a pattern of pushing too hard, and these get encoded as threat signals. So when the conditions match that encoding, the response fires. It's not irrational, it's a pattern matched protection. So practically, what needs to happen here is this about building confidence gradually, going to the edge where you can feel tension and allowing a pause, making a decision to turn from agency rather than reaction. And decision here is really the critical word that we're using. I'm also in a following module, we'll look into flow states and some of the triggers that help put us into flow state, things like curiosity, autonomy, new environments or novelty. These are also can really support building in safer experiences when we're diving. So, and you can incorporate that obviously into your training plan to support that. So, using body language and somatics to inform your nervous system. So I want you to do a quick exercise. I want you to hunch your shoulders. I want you to drop your eyes, sink in your neck. And just for a moment, notice what you're experiencing here. Has it shifted your state? Are there certain emotions that maybe arise? What are the thoughts here just by shifting your body posture? Are there any stories that come up from here? Now take a moment and bring up your shoulders. Maybe lift your eyes, lift up your chin, feel a bit more expansion in the chest. What happens here? Has the state changed? Has the stories changed? And this is just through a simple motion. So imagining encountering a shark when you're in the ocean, your posture communicates something very powerful. You're asserting your presence through just your body language alone. If you were to panic and to react and to try and swim away, straight away you become prey. However, when you're holding that presence, you're communicating to the shark. This is why focusing on confidence and presence and sensations are really effective, rather than trying to tell yourself and talk yourself down into relaxation. So obviously when it comes to body posture, we want to remain streamlined in our diving, but even just making micro adjustments can really matter. For example, using your eyes, if you look 25 meters or more away into the distance, you're signaling again there's no predators in the environment and your nervous system will naturally relax. Obviously, I'm aware some divers dive with their eyes closed, but there's lots of those little things that I can share with you in order to support on a somatic level, bringing the nervous system down. But perhaps most importantly, this nervous system work should really be done mostly out of the water. It should be as essential as part of your training program as like going to the gym, because the aim is to train your nervous system to register and recognize safety in yourself, your anchor point, your authentic baseline state, so that when you become dysregulated, which of course you will, because that is normal and healthy, you can come back to this place with far more ease. And in the water, when you're there, you'll just kind of be able to do that on a much easier automatic level. And for those of you that have done my inner leader exercise, this is really about understanding what that baseline state is, that you can keep practicing it on a day-to-day basis, reinforcing and training your nervous system. This is home, this is agency. So, as we mentioned, obviously the paradox with diving is that we need relaxation to go deeper, but going deeper often takes us into a place which is going to trigger some of the threat response. So this is the paradox that we are constantly kind of working with, and really where it is sort of expanding that comfort zone. We want to know that safety is not necessarily the absence of fear. Safety is not necessarily not having discomfort. It's our ability to be able to be with discomfort, to be able to hold on to that inner state. So I just want to give you a quick example about someone perhaps who is scared of flying. And if they are on the plane and they go through the whole experience white knuckling, they are never going to learn that flying is safety, because they're just holding that tension there. However, if you imagine the same person doing that flight and they are able to remain present, they maybe notice their environment, the vibrations, and they're staying rooted to their center and can hold some of the experiences that are coming up. Or perhaps they have a friend who's with them, who is calming and helps them feel more at ease and provides psychological comfort. They will train their nervous system that actually this is a safe experience. And the more they repeat that, the easier it will become. So I lastly just want to touch upon one of the most important aspects when it comes to nervous system regulation, and that is co-regulation. It's one of the most powerful tools because we're built for survival, but we're also built for connection. It's a primary survival driver. So just sitting next to someone who feels calm and who we feel safe with will just regulate us without us having to do anything. So as a coach, and for any freediving instructors out there, this is 101. It's the most important thing that you can do for your client is to be a safe space. The opposite is also true. So when we're with someone we don't feel comfortable with, it can be dysregulating. So what does this mean in diving? If you're not feeling comfortable with your body, I really encourage you to validate this experience for yourself and do whatever you need to bring in that safety. Maybe it's not diving deep that day, maybe it's bringing someone else in, maybe it's saying, actually, I don't want to dive here today. So this is obviously super important with your training partners, and in competitions you want to make sure that your surroundings, your environment, the people you're surrounding yourself with is all feeling safe, and to take responsibility for yourself, for your own safety with that and what you need. And just to understand that your personal relationships in your day-to-day life matter. You'll have a huge impact on your diving and your life, and we need people. We need to feel like we belong, that we're part of a community. We need people that we can be honest with, that we can be real with, that know that will accept us, even if it's just one person. And if that isn't available to you right now, it might be a good idea to reach out to a therapist or a coach. Having said that, people do regulate differently and it changes. So some people don't regulate through others, perhaps it might be nature. The most important thing though is that you bringing in that sense of connection and belonging, not through a place of isolation. And lastly, a quick cheat sheet is diving with gratitude. Diving from the heart. This connects us to our ventral vagal and it slows our heart rate down, our muscles relax. So finding those thoughts, feelings, sensations that bring that in. So I hope you found this helpful. I look forward to seeing you in the next module.